Hey Church Communications, hope you're doing well. My name is Daryl Girardier, and today we're going to talk about the big productivity hack I've learned in 2017 that I think will help you multiply your time, help you make you more productive, however you want to phrase it. I think it's going to make you better at what you do. Now, let me first tell you a little background about my experience with productivity. I probably have tried every single iPhone app that exists that revolves around to-do lists, projects, etc., etc. I've read the book Getting Things Done, probably no less than probably 5 to 7 times. I've been through that book numerous times. So I'm very, very well versed in the whole idea of productivity. I've read all the blogs, I've read a lot of that material. And over the last, I would say probably 10 to 15 years, I've kind of progressed in terms of how I approach productivity. But I've had everything from elaborate project lists to task lists to all that kind of stuff. If you kind of dive into it, I've been down that world of project management, but more like personal project management. So I've kind of been all down those roads. And all that changed for me in the last year, specifically, really honestly, probably the last, I would say 6 months, when I read 2 different books. One book by an author named Kevin Kruse. It was basically Secrets of Time Management. And another book by Rory Vaden called Procrastinate on Purpose. So I'm reading these 2 books, and at the same time, I started observing and spending some time with some CEOs and started observing how they spend their time. Now, keep in mind, I'm thinking, I'm coming from a world where you have these massive amount of lists, and you've got all these, basically you have project lists, you have lists by which you're going to do stuff, and like if you follow the GTD methodology, like context, all of that stuff, these, Trello cardboards, the boards that you got where with all your cards flying around. I've done all of that. So I'm reading these 2 books, and I'm watching, and both the books and watching the CEOs, I come to the same conclusion. That people that are super productive, that get the big things done, do one thing and do one thing really, really well. And that is, they put everything on their calendar. That's right, everything on their calendar. One thing I've noticed about CEOs that I've spent some time with is that very rarely do they walk around with massive to-do lists, okay? They typically walk around with their calendar, okay? And that's what they live off of. They live off of their calendar. So anything that's got to get done, they put it on their calendar. So I took a look at that, and then reading these 2 books, which suggest you do the same thing, I thought, can this work in real life? I'm not a CEO. I don't have an administrative assistant. I don't have a virtual assistant. So I kind of manage myself, through and throughout the day. I decide the day. I handle all incoming requests. I'm a single person in that sense. There's not a team around me in terms of managing my day. So can you pull this off? So I started this again probably about 6 months ago, and I will tell you, my productivity went through the roof, and it continues to go through the roof by doing this. Now, when I say put everything on your calendar, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is this, is that if I've got something that has to get done, I don't put it on a list and park it somewhere and then go back to, whenever I have free time, go back to that list and say, can I work on X? What I do is I actually go in and actually schedule out everything I have to get done as it comes up. So if there's something that I know I've got to get done, it's going to take me a couple hours to knock out a design, or it's going to take me to do some art direction, whatever that is, I will schedule that time and put it on my calendar. Then I know I've made a commitment to myself that when I'm at that time, at that place, I'm going to get that thing done. So what I've done is mentally I've kind of made a commitment to myself that this is the thing that I want to physically kind of knock out and get done. Now, this whole thing is comes with a little bit of challenges. Okay, if you're thinking, okay, that sounds great, but what do you do with chaos, all this kind of stuff? So let me kind of break down my workflow a little bit more in detail for you, and then it'll kind of explain how I handle emergencies, etc. So I still have a list, and that list is all of my projects, okay? So these are the things that are multi-step action, big things we got to get done, like planning for Christmas this year, 2017 Christmas, okay? So that's a major project. So I still have a list of all these projects, and that's what I have as my reference list of the big rocks of things I know we got to get done, and I can't just do it all in one fell swoop. So I still have that list, okay? Then I have my calendar, all right? So what I do is I look at that big list, and I figure out what's the things we've got to get done to move that ball forward on those things, and I put them in my calendar, okay? Now I do that every Friday. I sit down and I kind of map out my entire next week. I already know my meetings are for most part in place. I know what the meetings are going to be, but then I use that list of projects, and I kind of map out in my week everything I'm going to get done. Now, there's two caveats to that. One is, yes, you're gonna have emergencies. You get a cure with an ear infection, you gotta take them to the doctor, boom, list is blown up, thrown out the window. That's fine. Later that night when I get home, I will turn around and I'll reschedule some stuff and move some stuff around to kind of get all that stuff that I missed being able to do into my calendar. So I've got that. I've also got stuff that comes up that your boss says you gotta do this right now. And you're kind of going, yeah, but I've meticulously planned out my day. That happens to me all the time. So what do I do with that? Well, I shift stuff around. I look at this stuff and kind of go, this is really important. I need to do this, but the reality of it is my boss wants X, so I'm gonna get that thing done first, okay? The third thing that kind of comes up, if it's not my boss's emergency, not a family emergency, that kind of stuff, is stuff that comes on your plate, but takes us like 2 minutes to do, and you can do it really quick. If somebody's like, I need you to sign something, I need you to read over this real fast, I just knock it out. 2 minutes or less, I'm gonna knock it out and get it out of the way. By the way, that's actually from the getting things methodology. So, getting things done methodology, excuse me. So I'm just gonna knock those things out real quick. So if it's a really quick task, I'm gonna knock it out. If it's not quick task, I'm gonna schedule it. If it's emergencies for my boss, I'm gonna just move my calendar around for that day. And if it's a family emergency, guess what? I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna have to shift my whole schedule, but that's fine because I can move those things to another time and another place and figure out when I'm gonna get that thing done. Then what that does for me is then means every night I go through my day with a fine tooth comb, make sure every minute's planned out. I know exactly where I'm gonna be, what I'm gonna be doing. And then all of a sudden when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to think about my work. I don't think about what I'm gonna do today. I don't have to think about what's gonna come up. Guess what? I'm just gonna turn around and just open up my calendar and I'm gonna go through that list. I'm gonna punch things out. Now, by doing this, I have upped my productivity quite a bit because I'm finding myself not having to sit there and think about what's the next thing I gotta do. I'm just moving forward, getting things done, punching through things, just moving one by one by one by one by one. And I will tell you, it's been huge for me. Now, I'll tell you the other caveat of this is that if you work in a collaborative environment or semi-collaborative environment or an environment where people wanna come by and say hi and drop into your office, this is where it gets a little bit stressful, that you get people who are like, okay, are you busy right now? My answer is typically, yeah, I am busy. Now, people can come to my office and they can say hi to me whenever they want. But the reality of it is your team will start to notice that you pretty much are always on the go and you're always actually getting things done. So that's great. Maybe it creates that culture around your team. But for some people, that's an adjustment, specifically if they've always had access to you. So you got to kind of keep that in mind, that for some people, this will be a big shift. And honestly, they might not be crazy about it. So, keep that in mind when you kind of move to this. And also keep in mind that if you're married, your spouse, if you kind of plan your life like with your spouse and your spouse doesn't plan like that, you may have a little friction. So that's why, like for me, I plan my 9 to 5, if you will, pretty taut. And then when I get home, I kind of let the calendar kind of go out the window in terms of productivity because I'm just hanging with my family. Family stuff to do with the kids, my wife. Saturdays, I don't really stress and don't really schedule that stuff out unless it's like a big project we need to do around the house. But for the most part, I kind of stay away from that because I want to have that flexibility. But when it comes to the 9 to 5, I want to strictly plan all that stuff out. And by doing that in the calendar, you'll end up, again, creating a massive amount of productivity because you really are going to be very focused on what you've got to get done and when you have to get it done. So that's what I've learned. I'll tell you, 2017, I think I've been far more productive than I was in 2016, just based off of that one tweak of getting rid of all these multiple lists I was carrying everywhere, all this software, OmniFocus, Todoist, Trello, all that stuff, getting rid of all that, Asana, and just saying, you know what, I'm gonna focus on having one list, which I keep in Apple Reminders, and my project, and then putting everything in my calendar. Now, the one little software piece that I do use in this is I use an app called Fantastical on the iPhone, and that lets me quickly enter dates in and quickly schedule stuff out. So there you go. And the other app I use on top of that is if I have something I want to remember and I need a place to park it, I use Squarespace Note and I just email myself. So you just type in the note and you can send yourself an email. It's in my inbox, and then that later that night I'll process it and turn around and put it on the calendar. So there you go. So that's how I have multiplied my productivity in 2017. Hopefully you liked this video, and if you did, please share or like it if you're on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, if you could hit the subscribe button, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.